We're all good? Okay, great.
Okay.
Hi, welcome to the Weta Workshop School at Massey University Facebook Q&A. My name is Tim Croft and I'm the International Manager for the College of Creative Arts. And today I'm going to be joined by Paul Tobin from Weta Workshop and Tanya Merritt from Massey University.
Hi there.
Before we begin, some of you have submitted questions to our comments section, which we will endeavour to answer today. But if you have questions as we talk through today's program, please submit them to the comments section on the feed. So I guess the best way to begin is to talk about entertainment design and the Massey University Master of Design program. So Paul and Tanya, can you just tell us a bit about what you think the program will look like and a bit about what entertainment design actually is?
Perhaps I'll kick it off with entertainment design. It's quite a broad sphere, but in the context of this one-year master's course, entertainment design is the concept art and the conceptual thinking and design that goes towards making up content for film, television, game, and increasingly location-based experience, which is things like theme parks or museums and exhibitions.
So in recent years there's been quite a shift in entertainment design, moving away from being purely games or something that doesn't really necessarily have a deep meaning to elements that have got quite strong social or political or ecological stories behind them. So when you go to the cinema and you go and experience a film or you go and play a game, there's often like a deeper thread or a meaning behind what you're actually experiencing.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the other thing too is concept art or concept design. The terms are a little bit interchangeable depending on, I guess, which country you're from, which school, but if we sort of just treat them as the same, basically the idea is as a concept artist, which is what I do for a living, effectively you're helping maybe the filmmaker, maybe the director, or someone producing a game, or you're basically helping them visualize the content. And typically, certainly when it comes to things like films, that's typically things around story, character, and world. And obviously, you know, coming from Weta Workshop, we tend to, a lot of the work that we do as concept artists is sort of takes place more in imaginary worlds, which is a big sort of, you know, obviously over the last few years has become a really huge area and sort of a big part of the entertainment industry.
But concept design is where you take a lot of that content and then you're taking it to the next step and thinking about how it might be manufactured, how it might be made, how it's actually going to look when it's worked into a game or into a film or into an animated environment, because each of those genres has different sort of reasons for making or different ways that they can be interpreted.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about the course. So this is a brand new course. It sits within the current Master of Design program at Massey University, and it's a year-long program, and students will start in September and complete in the following September. So we'll have a small cohort of students that we'll bring in. They'll be accepted from the portfolios submitted. In the first couple of weeks, what we'll do is look through all the research proposals, and we'll actually help you to flesh out those proposals and turn them into a project structure. So when students are actually applying for the program, what we're really looking at is an expression of intent for what kind of project they want to create, and in those first couple of weeks we're going to help you to put that project together, give it a bit of a theoretical background, give it a bit of depth, and then work out how you're going to gain mastery over your skills through the program. Then what we'll do is we'll proceed to the Weta
Grad Camp,
yeah,
which is it's basically you guys come out and join us at Weta Workshop, so you're on site for the full week, and we're going to be working on a group project as a team, very similar to how we work at Weta, basically a group of designers working on a single project to solve the creative development of a project that I'm going to come up with. And the main focus of that week is to have a huge amount of fun, hopefully, get excited about the fact that you're about to undertake a year-long journey in design, but more importantly it's to introduce you to the particular process that Weta goes through when we're designing on films, television and game, and sort of what it does is it's meant to give you a bit of a crash course on the tools that you're probably going to start to use to start working up your own project. So it's kind of like a crash course in concept design, and more importantly too, it's a chance to get to know the people at Weta Workshop, and hopefully just come out of it really inspired and fired up so that you're going to hit the ground running, you know, full steam for a year.
So then students will come back to Massey and you'll be working between Massey and Weta. You'll have your studio base at Massey. The cohort will be kept together in a design studio environment, and that's when you're going to start to develop your project under the guidance of Paul and I, who'll be your supervisors. And then students will also go to Weta for critique moments and opportunities to network with Weta concept designers to get feedback on their projects. And then they'll also go to Weta for it's like an internship.
Yeah.
So that will happen, I think it's during the second half.
No, I think we're going to try to keep that in the first half
Yeah.
of the year, that you'll get each of our students will come to Weta and spend 2 weeks in the design studio working on a live job alongside our designers. Again, you won't be working on your project. That's 2 weeks where you'll be getting a chance to really see what it's like to actually work in the industry.
But there'll be related skills from that you'll be able to bring back into your project, and also networking with people at Weta that will be relevant to give you kind of critique.
Yeah, you better get
some
some feedback.
Yeah.
You know, grab a coffee and have a chat about where you're at.
And so then you'll proceed into the making of your project. And so the course itself is part theory, but a lot of it is gaining mastery over the skills that you want to actually dig deep into. And so you may be really interested in character design, and you want to understand why is it that some characters empathize with the audience more than others, why are some worlds more immersive than others. Maybe you're interested in the experience of the user coming into the space and being in a game environment, and you want to create a more immersive experience. Maybe you're interested in narrative and you're looking at the hero's journey, but you want to kind of look at different narratives. So these are the theoretical underpinnings for your project. And so while you're working through the design and building this body of practice-based work, you're going to be contextualizing that through a body of writing. And the writing is a small piece of work that supports the practice-based work.
Yeah.
So most of it is actually about you drawing and sculpting and designing, and then using the writing to support the work that you're creating.
Yep. Tim?
So one of the questions that's come through is about constructing a portfolio for our application.
Yep.
So we've recommended that an applicant has up to 35 pages of their work.
That's certainly on the higher end too. I think.
And 24 pages of that, or about 2/3 of that, we want to be in concept design. Can you sort of talk through about what you want to see in a portfolio?
Yeah. Sure.
What a portfolio might look like, and what format you want the portfolio to be in.
Yep. Obviously there's a huge variety of projects that you can do under this course. But the main thing I guess we're looking for is, for me anyway, is passion for, that we want to see the interest and passion behind the idea of what you're wanting to explore through concept design and entertainment design.
Yeah.
And I think you don't have to have a fully resolved project.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point of this master's program. You've got a whole year to kind of finalise your concept and where you want to go.
Yeah.
But I think before you start a journey, you want to pack a bag and be well prepared. And
Yeah.
I think that's the trick, is that the portfolio needs to demonstrate that you've got the basic tools and sort of the entry level tools, and more importantly the idea, the spark of an idea, accompanied with some design work around that idea to show, to give us an idea of where you want to go.
So some portfolios, some students might come to us with a lot of industry experience and a large portfolio of industry-based work, but also their personal work, their own personal world building. We're also really interested in portfolios from new and emerging concept designers, people who are just getting into concept design and want to know a little bit more about the process. So we're not wanting people, you don't have to be an established concept designer to begin with, but as Paul says, the passion and the drive is most important. What we are looking for though is your creative thinking. So
Yeah,
how
definitely.
do you actually design something? How do you design a character? How do you design a world? How do all those elements interrelate to each other? So in your portfolio, rather than having separate items, it'd be really great to see little bodies of work. So you might have several characters that are related to each other, and an environment, props and other elements that go with those characters, but there might be several different sections. Some of them might be from one world or from another world. You might be looking at characters that are more realistic, characters that are more caricatured for animation and game. So it's really quite open as to what you could supply. But what we do want to see is a consistent creative process through the work. So within your portfolio, it'd be great to see the final design work, but also see the making of as well. So your design sketches, your sculptures, and any of your initial drawings and thinking.
Yeah.
If you've got videos, it'd be great if you either have them in Vimeo or YouTube and then have a link in your PDF portfolio, or you embed them and make it an interactive PDF. And we're really interested in seeing the work, so just make sure if it's a physical work, physical sculptures, that they're really well photographed and they're really large, high resolution, and that all of the images are kind of a decent size so that we can actually see them really clearly.
Yeah. I think probably the other thing to make a note of is one of the things we definitely look for is kind of like the underpinning of the you know, you might be wanting to explore some fantasy world and you've got a hero and they're going to go on this amazing exploration of this world, and there's going to be a villain and they're going to have a big fight at the end, and that's all great and fine, but what we're actually really interested in is potentially the kind of underpinning concept, which might be and I'm just going to use an example here because it was a good one. So this was obviously, you guys hopefully be familiar with District 9. Obviously it came out a few years ago now, but it's a great film because it's imaginary world. It's in our world, but it's an imaginary take on it. It's science fiction, but the great thing about it is that it explored social commentary in a lot of different ways. The most obvious way was obviously Neil was making a bit of a commentary around immigration and refugees coming from Zimbabwe and other parts into Johannesburg, and people commenting on that and the tension being caused by that. So another example is, you know, Avatar. Obviously James Cameron's got a really strong environmental message behind his films. So I think, you know, we're firm believers that entertainment, it entertains, but it's also about creating social change. You know, art has the power to create change in a positive way in the world, and so what we're looking for is artists that are eager to explore their own worlds, but at the same time explore, you know, relevant issues.
Yeah.
Now, they don't have to be super serious issues, or you might start off in a very serious place, and you might end up changing over the course of your project, and it might become a little bit more lighthearted. But ultimately, those sort of more contemporary issues will give you the research material to really help drive your design forward.
The wonderful thing about these imaginary worlds, though, is when you have an imaginary world like Avatar, you know, you're able to scaffold the real kind of visceral, gritty kind of narrative and something that's a little bit more magical and a little bit more palatable, so it actually can be consumed by a wider audience, a wider kind of group of people that might, you know, naturally have been interested in environmental themes or you know, looking at you know, mining of indigenous peoples. And so this is where the imaginary world and the entertainment spaces can serve as a way to be able to educate people or to get them to kind of open their minds and explore some of these things. Yeah. But again, they can be quite playful. So your world doesn't have to be really serious. It can actually be a really
well, I mean, look at
space.
Pixar films. I mean, they often have quite a strong theme behind them, social
it's like a
theme
strong
behind
moral
them.
Code,
But it's, you know,
message to say.
but it's fun, right? It's
Yeah.
super entertaining.
Yeah.
Zootopia was actually, I think that was a Disney film, but
Yeah.
that was a super great example of some quite relevant social contemporary issues.
Yeah.
But it was like hilarious. So
Yeah.
you don't have to be bogged down and super serious.
No.
So with that in mind, one of the questions that we got about the portfolio, because that's polished and finished work.
Yeah.
Correct.
So Sarah Baker has asked, a lot of her work is hand drawn rather than touched up or done on a computer. Will that count against her in her application?
No,
Absolutely not.
No.
Okay.
No.
So the good thing about a master's program, you know, I think most of us freely admit that working in the entertainment industry at the moment, you really do need to be digitally sort of, you know, we use computers, we use the digital tools a lot. Though having said that, most of us still have pencil and paper next to our computers, and we still problem solve traditionally a lot of the time.
Yeah.
With your masters, it is your project, and so you may be exploring concepts around entertainment design and concept design, but you could choose the medium of how you want to express that. It could easily be traditional or a combination of digital and traditional. So there's no penalty at all.
This is an interesting
around going traditional.
No, and this is an interesting suggestion for Sarah, that maybe her project might be more about the process of concept design, the fact that concept design is moving more towards a digital environment, and that is there a space for more traditional media in the way of actually generating concept. So we're seeing a shift in the film industry towards using physical effects. Is there a shift in the concepting world towards using traditional media?
Going back to old school.
And what is lost between the transition from traditional media to digital media? So that could form the theoretical framework for the project, is actually looking at concept design itself.
Yeah. Actually, just quickly too, if you're not that aware of what the process of concept design is, there are countless behind the scenes documentaries now. There's a lot of books. Obviously, there are some great sites like ArtStation, which showcase a lot of work done in the entertainment design. So these are all good places to look. Weta Workshops produced a number of books. This is just one example that this is quite good in that it very much is the work that Weta did. And it really does cover the full process of where we started on the project right through to the end. So if you get a little bit stuck around how you can build a portfolio, just go and look at what is created and how it's created in the entertainment industry, and then do like a little mini version of that. And that's pretty much what we're kind of looking for as a portfolio.
Okay.
So just looking at the research proposal, because you're going to be submitting your portfolio plus the research proposal, and I think there's probably a few questions around this area as well, and the academic nature of this. So the research proposal at this stage is going to be a suggestion of intent of what you want to be looking at. And so to give a couple of examples, we've had students that have been really interested in why alien characters are represented as kind of beautiful and magical kind of creatures, and yet Indigenous people are not necessarily given the same reference. So they're taking kind of elements from Indigenous cultures, but within a fantasy space, making that really quite amazing. So for example, if we're looking at Nateri here, there's an Indigenous element to her, so within a film environment she's regarded as being this sort of beautiful magical creature, and yet Indigenous people in the world aren't seen in exactly the same light. So the project might be more of a political or social kind of look into this. You might be looking at the suspension of disbelief. So it's a theory around how some creatures look more real than other creatures. And so at this stage in your proposal, you might say, well, I'm really interested in creature design, and I'm really interested in dragons, and why is it that some dragons are more believable than other dragons, and there's something strange with the anatomy, or there's something strange with the way that they're designed, or the way that they speak, and so I want to do a project that's sort of looking at that. And so you would write that up in a proposal. You'd need to submit some readings as well. So you might have been reading some books about people who are designing dragons and looking at some of the source material that they were looking at. You might be looking at anatomy books. You might be looking at some theories around filmmaking and around believability of characters. So you might have some ideas of what those theories are. But at this stage, it's just a suggestion of intent of what you want your project to be. If you're accepted into the program, in the first couple of weeks we help you to flesh that out and work out what that is, help you to work out what the theories are that are underpinning that. You might also be looking at the actual experience design or the entertainment design space itself, and looking at location-based experiences, or how film might become more tangible. And so you're looking at how the film experience could maybe extend out into merchandise or product, or how character licenses are developed, and so those are other areas that you could dig into as well.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, certainly a lot of people that I've talked to in the industry, you often have tucked away in the back of your mind a world or a story that you want to explore. And I guess this is an amazing opportunity for you to take a year out to try to make that story or bring that world to life. So because I mean a huge part of the entertainment industry is story. It's about telling stories, and I think this is a really good opportunity if you've got one of those little stories tucked away, is to try to bring it out and actually start to bring it to life. So I think that's, again, from a research point of view, we were talking before about how, a lot of films, in fact, most of the entertainment that's produced, there is usually some kind of message behind it. That's often, when we refer to the research part of it, that's often the part that we're kind of referring to a little bit, is the underpinning message, that the reason why you're creating it. It's not just to entertain, there's also a message behind it.
But even in telling stories, though, there are lots of different theories or mechanics or ways in which you tell stories. So if you were to tell a story within a linear film, where you sit at the beginning of the film, you watch it all the way to the middle to the end, go through that 3-act structure or the hero's journey structure. But then if you were looking at transitioning that film content into a game, then how do you know whether your audience has actually experienced the whole story if they're looking the wrong way when something happens in the game that's really pivotal? So your whole project could be about, well, how do you create these spaces where people are going to see the entire story within each scene? And so you're trying to think about, well, how do you seed that location with all those elements? And so all of that, anything that you kind of look at, you've always got to think about, how do you actually do it, and why? Why do you design these things? How do you design these things? And it's the how and the why that we're looking at for the research proposal.
Okay, so let's get to some nuts and bolts stuff about the application process and what is required for the program. So we're requiring a portfolio.
Correct.
And requiring a CV as well for the application, and also a research proposal. So the application goes in two steps. The first step is that you apply to Massey University. So you'll go through, if you go to Weta Workshop School at masseyuniversity.ac.nz, wetaworkshopschool.massey.ac.nz, you'll see an application process there behind us. You'll see the application process there. So you need to apply to Massey University. This is for both domestic and international students. You need to apply to Massey University. In addition to that, when you apply, you'll be asked to submit a copy of your portfolio and your CV. You can submit it there, but you also need to submit it through the next step, which is step 2, which is on Slide Room, which is also on the website. And on Slide Room, you'll submit your portfolio, your CV, and your research proposal. Once you've submitted all your material, you'll receive an acknowledgement email that you have successfully applied for the program. So the deadline for the program is the 31st of May, midnight New Zealand Standard Time. So that's a little bit earlier for students, international students. And after that, then there'll be we'll go through the applications and look, and we'll finalise those who have been accepted into the program. You'll be contacted and then be asked to do a brief interview via Skype for the program with Tanya and Paul. So that's sort of how the application process will go. If you're an international student from a country with English as a second language, you'll also need to supply an English language score. And we're requiring you to have your English language score in hand by application deadline on the 31st of May. So we will not give you a conditional offer based upon your English language score pending. So you need to have done that prior to your the deadline. We will accept the PTE, so that's the Pearson test. We'll also accept the TOEFL and the IELTS exam. So for IELTS, it's 6.5, no score lower than 6. In addition to that, we've been asked about scholarships. There are scholarships available for people applying to this program. You are required to enrol, but one scholarship that might be of relevance is the Massey Masterate Scholarship, which is worth 15,000 New Zealand dollars during the course of the program. For more information about scholarships, go to massey.ac.nz/scholarships for the scholarships that are available for students. And for accommodation options, Massey University will help find all international students and domestic students accommodation. We do recommend, though, for postgraduate students that they tend to want to live in a flatting or an apartment rather than living in halls of residence accommodation, which is more for undergraduate. And another question that came in on Facebook was, can undergraduates apply? You need to have graduated first to be able to apply for the program, or be a postgraduate student by the time you apply. We will look at people who have 4-year Bachelor of Design or Bachelor of Fine Art or equivalent degree, but we will also look at students who come from a different background but have a strong concept design
Yeah.
portfolio. So we will look at other applicants as well.
So if in doubt, just apply anyway, even
Yeah,
if you don't
definitely.
feel like you know quite what your project is. The portfolio is really important. If you can put together the portfolio and just put together all of the components, just submit it anyway. We'd really love to see your work, and we'd really love to kind of see the scope of people that are really interested in taking part in the program. So don't kind of think that you haven't got everything in line. Just submit the work that you actually have. There's another question we had from Nina Fern just about the workload, the expected workload within the week. And so for most of our master's students, the research is self-driven, so you can come and go in the studio space and you have longer time that you can have access to the university facilities during the day. Most students that are local will have a job as well and can balance a reasonable part-time job around their study. If you're an international student, you'll need to obviously make sure that you can cater for this, that you'll have enough finances to kind of cover you while you're studying. But the actual contact hours are flexible, and we can work around people's working commitments as well. But you need to be able to give at least sort of a good sort of 2 days, 2 to 3 days of sort of solid work on your project. So you're really looking at part-time work balance with the amount of time that you can give to your project.
Yeah,
Obviously, the more you give to it, the better it will be.
Exactly, yeah. And
Yeah.
I guess our role as supervisors is, because we've got day jobs as
Yeah.
well, so it's a balance for us. But
Yeah.
obviously, as our role as supervisors is to supervise you.
Yeah.
But what that effectively means is we sit, both of us will sit with you during certain contact times during the week, and sit down and talk through your project with you, and help guide the process and mentor the process through. And this can be, can be quite a range. I mean, the main thing is it's one-on-one personalised time, which is the really important part. And obviously it's advice around research, it's advice around the conceptual thinking and design process, but it's also hands-on technical stuff as well, like showing you how to resolve a technical problem. If you've never used oil paints before, then I guess we'll be busting out the paints. If you've never used Photoshop before, then we'll be busting out the Wacom tablet and dusting off Adobe. So it's basically we're there to help give you the tools and empower you to achieve your goals. And during that process, like I said, there'll be key times during the year where we'll be bringing in other designers, particularly from Weta, to help around specific things. For instance, I'm a creature designer at times, but I'm not what I'd call, I've got a couple of friends at Weta who are what I call creature experts. And so if you're doing a project around creatures, for instance, then there's a good chance that I'll be able to grab one of those designers to come in and maybe give you some real specific feedback around creatures.
So you'll also have access to all the Massey facilities as well, the libraries, the studio spaces, and you'll be part of the larger cohort of Master of Design students. There's a really large studio space in there, and there are a lot of student-led activities and student support mechanisms and kind of groupings and get-togethers that are available for this cohort as well.
Yeah, it's probably worth mentioning that, just to reiterate that you'll be based at Massey University.
Yeah.
There'll definitely be a few times during the year when you'll be at Weta, but the bulk of the time is spent at Massey University.
Yeah.
Because obviously we're a lockdown studio, and so obviously from a client point of view, we need to be a little bit sensitive around having students wandering around all the time.
Okay, so that's it for us today. We will have another session later on today. If you have questions, you can feel free to submit those to the next comment section. We'll have another session at 4 p.m. New Zealand Standard Time. So, have any more questions? Yeah, please do. We would love to hear from you again.
Cool.
See you later, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.